what I'll try and do is go back and look at some of the things we whipped through last time, but with much more of an applied, kind of practical kind of slant. So we'll do this briefly, but I think Maureen's here to really do that better than we can. So we might whip through some of this a bit quicker than we did yesterday, and leave plenty of time to hear Maureen and ask her questions. Just take it. I know there's some people that. Are there a few people that weren't here for the last session? Yes. Okay. So there's some new. Just for those people, and also just to kind of review. Just take a kind of step right back and what's the issue here? And as we were saying last time, we spend £5 billion on teaching assistants. There are more TAs than teachers in primary schools, etc., etc. You know all these figures, and the evidence suggests that we're not using them in a way that's adding to pupil attainment, and possibly, as Rob was talking to last time, can have negative impacts if they're not deployed effectively for the pupils they spend the most time with. And the teaching and learning toolkits that we showed last time is kind of has been a bit of a catalyst for some of the discussions around this. But we know, on the other hand, that there's really clear evidence emerging that when you deploy, train and use TAs differently, they absolutely will add to pupil attainment. We talked about EF evidence that's showing that. So there's a real, unusually kind of clear picture of the opportunity to do something different. Let's hammer this point, but it's around staff and timetables and contracts and all sorts of people in the school. Therefore, it's a leadership issue. We got into that, and you'll be aware of these 7 recommendations that talk about TAs in the classroom, TAs for interventions, and then the link, which sometimes we overlook this crucial linking between the learning that takes place in those two contexts. Okay, so the first recommendation, which was almost a kind of non-recommendation in terms of what things to not do, but it was saying that we've almost drifted in a situation where perhaps too often TAs are being used in this informal way, providing long periods of support to typically low attaining and SEN pupils, and as a result of that, there were a set of unintended separation effects going on in the classroom. So there's separation from the curriculum, separation from peers, but probably most importantly, separation from the teaching and the teacher that's going on in the lesson. And that by itself seemed to be associated with the lower outcomes. That's the primary reason for the lower outcomes that we were finding in the research. So I guess the first thing is, well, let's turn that on its head and think of a wider view of how TAs can support learning, and really think perhaps moving away from this kind of Velcro model of TA deployment to maybe more an elastic band, where there's a looser association with lower attaining pupils, and as a result, teachers working more with low attainers and SEN, but also how they're working with those pupils, and this principle of supplementing, not replacing teaching, really at the heart of what this is all about. And I think we said last time, but the more we keep thinking about this, that this report is that is one principle. There's this one principle, which is use TAs to supplement, not replace teachers. And all the other recommendations are almost different versions of that, or ways to get to that point. So thinking about different ways in which we can use TAs to supplement rather than replace the teaching, and almost at the heart of that, you've got to have high quality teaching going on by the teacher, and if you have that in place, why would you ever use TA in a way that would not replace that, but rather be there to supplement, enhance and engage with that high quality teaching by the teacher? So I think that's the kind of premise. We use this little image here, which is perhaps the answer to sometimes the answer to pupils that are struggling with their learning has been to have more support from the TA, so switching that kind of those outer rings, and sort of saying that really the teacher should be the first line of support and teaching for all pupils in the class, and when you do that, it frees up all this really interesting, exciting space of how you can use the teacher to support and enhance that kind of process. So what we kind of thought we'd get into is revisiting what we talked about last time. So if that's the principle, what does this look like? What are alternative supplementary forms of TA support in the lesson? So once we mentioned last time was this idea of you could perhaps set up different tables across days of a week. You might have 5 tables. On day 1, the teacher works with one group, the TA works with another group. You might have 2 tables doing peer tutoring or group work, and a table doing some independent learning. For a particular exercise, and then over the days of the week, you rotate people around. So everyone has a certain time with the teacher, certain time with the TA. So just some very kind of simple things like that. The readiness for learning stuff was almost a kind of... So one thing that's come back when we initially started talking about this work was schools going, but Jonathan, I can tell you now that some pupils will need more support from a TA. And then when you ask them, well, you said, well, they need that to help them ready to be able to access their learning. They need support to go on tasks, they need the support to be getting their materials out, so they know the objectives, they're in the place, they've got the code, they're ready for, and I think that's a perfect example of supplementing, not replacing the teacher. The idea that the TA is there to get that child in a way so they're receptive and engaged with the learning. I've been modelling with listening, it's the kind of focusing them on task, it's that kind of readiness for learning idea. Let's just show a video for the next one, which was this idea that, well, actually there's a few things going on here. So let's see, this is a video of it's a secondary school. So we often talk about primary. This is quite a few of these videos from secondary. And it's a teacher working with a TA and planning out, I don't know if it's their lesson or if it's a scheme for the work. I think they do this maybe once a week and they've run through, they're discussing what they want them to do in relation to their roles. And you'll hear them just kind of running through some things to set out their coordinated roles to go.
I've drawn up this kind of a basic place to start off with, so we can be adding to this as we go. Here are the students that we're particularly looking at. So there's Dion, Danielson, Dara, Rohan and Richie. Actually, as a talk partner for Dara, I'll be working with them as well. So we can do a kind of a swapping there so that we both get an opportunity to work with him in that kind of pair work situation. And then you can be kind of walking around. I'd like to see you focusing on other students as well. Maybe not even just these students.
Sorry, did you want me to walk around with the students? So with Dion, like you said, trying to encourage him, so just making sure it's easy to visualise that. Still keeping an eye to make sure he's refocused, but not sitting next to him or anything like that. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you said it was Mark, he's not on here, but he's sometimes refocusing? Yeah, Mark. Yeah, definitely. Actually, one thing in particular I'd like to have a look at is literacy. It'd be a huge help if you could even just carry around a pink highlighter and just maybe do some there and then in class, literacy marking and making sure that they are keeping up with that and that their literacy skills are something that we're actually working on in class.
It wasn't actually in London, it was actually in Spain, and it's just been dubbed over the top. They were completely out of sync, weren't they, with the wording? Yeah. So, just some immediate thoughts. I mean, there were 3 things that we sort of spotted in there that you could, I think, emphasise or exemplify supplementing or replacing the teacher. But any things you picked up in there that kind of illustrate that idea?
Focusing on 2 separate objectives completely, so teachers looking at the science side of things, obviously we can have a look at.
Yeah. So this is a science lesson. The school as a whole, school push towards literacy. Every school has a kind of, it's written into it what they're trying to do, develop a culture push. And so they said, right, I'll do this. The primary objective, obviously, do the science lesson, but at the same time, can you pick up and walk around just and pick up issues around literacy that's going on? So there's that kind of differentiation of roles in terms of focusing on maybe a secondary objective. What about, one of the things was just the nature of what she was saying. I'm going to work around with these pupils, but the reason I'm just keeping an eye on them. I'm just checking that they're focused, that they're on task, that they know what's going on. Is that almost kind of just monitoring, just supporting in a kind of broader way, rather than I'm going to be working on this very sort of specific task. It's more just, it's the readiness for learning stuff. Does anyone pick up something that he said in relation to working with those specific pupils?
But they would both work with them.
So he said, I'm going to work with them as well. You know, he was very explicit that it's not just you working with that group, I want to work with other people, I'm going to go in there and work with them as well. It's not just a kind of tight, you stuck with that. So it's that, you know, that again, it's the idea of the elastic band, not the Velcro. That I think there's some nice sort of subtle exemplifications of that in there. Okay, so that's the first one. We'll do these together actually. So it's freeing up the teacher and demonstrating and scribing. So this is a, where's this school, Rob?
What is it?
Yorkshire. Okay, so it's a primary school in North Yorkshire, and yeah, the topic here is the Titanic, so they're doing some teaching around the Titanic. The TA is the woman there in the pink, and the teacher there is the guy in the check shirt. Yeah, and you'll see what's going on. So again, you know, some of these are there's some obvious things around supplementing, but there's some subtle things as well.
Okay, so I'm going to put a question up on the board. Okay. Perhaps you could do that, please. I want to look at today. Who you think was to blame for the Titanic disaster? Okay, now so a little bit of thinking time. Right, you might have a little bit of thinking time. I know some of you got your hand up straight away, so you've probably got a good idea. So, but just for 30 seconds, to share those thoughts, please. Let's just come and share some of these initial ideas, please. Okay. So, Emily.
Maybe the people who built it where it was struck because there wasn't making it secure.
Oh, right, good idea, right. Okay. Making it secure. Can you explain a little bit more about that? What do you mean by secure?
Like them thinking about the Titanic and not really thinking about the Titanic and they're supposed to like think about how strong it's supposed to be.
Right, so you think if it was stronger, it would have been, would it be able to withstand the collision?
So basically, who built it? The people who built it have really exercised to that. Why it's not what's how I built it?
Right, okay, well then. Right, it was built in Belfast, wasn't it?
You know, it's
Yeah, it's by Harland and Wolff.
yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you will put that down. You said that with conviction, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got, so who would have been in charge of lifeboats then? Who would have been in charge of lifeboats? You just take up, right? I need to give you the easiest.
So, who would be charged with that? How many lifeboats there were on the ship in the first place? Sorry? Who remembers?
Okay. So again, so in there, slightly some different things going on, some different types of supplementary support. I mean, what's the kind of obvious ones that you can see that's going on there?
Just the TA's doing the writing with the teacher. Yeah,
So she's doing it. She's written out. It hasn't been prompted or anything like that. He started sort of delivering these kind of addressing the class. She's gone straight to the board. She's taking the questions, and then she's also again, when they brought them back together, she's gone straight back up there and captured the answers kind of immediately. And obviously that, and it's enabled him, he's facing the class, he can see what's going on, he can engage different kids, and he's addressing the class. It's not just a straight division, I think she also then sort of gets involved and does some of the questioning as well, so she's also taking those answers, picking up stuff, he's giving her space, she's then coming and asking questions. But the idea of describing, demonstrating, being at the front of the class, being present, not just at the side of the group of kids, it's a really nice, just straightforward example of working together and supplementing what the teacher's doing. There's quite an interesting consequence of that, because she's at the front of the class. When the group work starts, they, just by the very nature of the fact she's at the front of the class, all have time to be able to work on it themselves initially. So that thing about independent learning and having time to be able to get it wrong and having time to work on it themselves, just having the teacher not directly with a certain group for a long time, because they're at the front, you've naturally got opportunities. She does go and she also then goes and what does she do then? When the kids are kind of coming up with answers?
Kind of refocus. You see your point to the question. So
bring it back to the questions. She also goes and works with two groups. She doesn't just sit with one. She's not kind of sitting down and kind of. She goes to another group and addresses their issues. I don't know if you saw it. And then right at the end, something really interesting. Well, you need to know what happens. There's a knock at the door from 2 year 6s. And what happened then? You see.
We told her to carry on.
Yeah, and it was so seamless, wasn't it? It's just like they didn't even drop a beat where she just picked up the questioning, he just went and talked to the year 6s, and she just carried on with the rest of the lesson. So it seems to me just a really nice example of clearly where your TA and the TA know their kind of coordinated but differentiated roles and they're kind of fluidly working together. So one thing that's in your pack, I don't know if I've got a copy of it. Okay, so it's this thing here in your pack. It's a resource that, as it says at the bottom there, it's a resource that a school in Barnet, St James's, it's the high school. It's the high school that was on that video before. And what they've been working on TSU for years, actually. There's a woman called Liz Burns and Senko. And over time, what they've done is they've developed. We've adapted this, but essentially it's this idea of a teacher-TA agreement, which individual teachers and TA pairs use to set out some basics of what they're going to be doing in a coordinated way at different points during the lesson. So, this is obviously for the teaching assistants. And if you look down, some of these are just examples we've pulled out here, but I think all of these exemplify supplementing, not replacing the teaching. So it's about focus on task, it's about encouraging modelling good listening, it's about providing prompts, encouraging interactions, etc., etc. Some of the later stuff is around collecting information and some basic information to feed back to the teacher about progress, etc. And I don't know, if I was going back into the classroom, I think this provides quite a useful foundation. We had this video yesterday, but it's not working. It's not. I don't know if we'll see this. Ed Balls is go down on what's Victim dancing. Wow, it's either a lot higher or low point of television, depending on your perspective. But like certainly not knowing your dance routine. But one way in which they describe that is that as a result of this, they know their dance routine. They know, you can see that with that video there, that they were moving quite fluidly around each other in every sense. In that kind of lesson, because they knew what they were each doing at each time. And I think what they would say at St James's is that having this kind of pre-specified and agreed, and each TA and teacher will create their own version of this, have this kind of agreed at the outset, enables and facilitates that to happen. So you set some agreed ideas of what you're going to be doing at different points within the lesson.
It takes quite a while though to build up that sort of relationship between the teacher and the TA.
Yes.
Quite often the TAs are only in there for a lesson and has gone somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. And this came up yesterday in conversation that you know, a school was saying, but I don't know which TA I'm going to be getting. Like, it's a secondary school, it varies. And I was saying, that feels like that's a fundamental issue. Like, because if you don't know who's coming in, you know, you can't even prepare on a lesson-by-lesson basis. You can't build that understanding of complementary roles, I don't think, unless you've got some kind of longer-term relationship to do that, it seems. So, what I thought we'd have to do is, what we useful is, perhaps, these were just some things, you know, I'm sure you've got lots more great examples of what supplementary forms of TA support can do. But perhaps one question that's not on here is what ways have you used in your school to develop those relationships? What could be helpful, you know, alongside things like this? Is it training? Is it co-development of this together? Is it, we were chatting about it in the car yesterday with Vanessa, is it, what would be valuable to do in terms of, you know, what the steps would be to develop that understanding of kind of complementarity in the classroom? The sort of next steps as part of this project. So yeah, have a quick 5 minutes of that, and then we'll pull together some of those ideas.
I think we talk about the literacy thing for the secondary school perspective, and the idea that we have whole school policy on using yellow highlighter for spelling issues and then students correct. And you know, as teachers we do that in our marking. Some TAs do that from their own initiative. Some TAs perhaps are handed a highlighter to work on those literacy issues in the past. And it is sometimes, it's a bit of a delicate balance, isn't it, around that sort of deployment. And some TAs almost probably don't do that perhaps because they don't think they've got permission to do it. And some teachers perhaps don't realise they need to give permission to do that. So there is that kind of, you know, it's almost like a hierarchy, isn't there, that can become a bit tricky. But certainly, you know, we were just saying from a secondary school perspective, literacy, you know, it's going to mean access to so much more in terms of progress in every subject. Maybe we're missing a trick by not, you know, dealing with that a bit better.
Yeah, I know, so the school primary yesterday had, I was just saying that they, for a while, used their TAs very, very, in a strategic way to focus on assessment and learning. So they were using the TAs as eyes around the class, collecting data on progress and looking at that and using that in quite a focused way to feed back to the teacher. To change that, you know, that was a focus for a while. So is that, I think it's exactly right, you know, it fits with this principle of supplementing, supporting what you're trying to do in terms of the strategic basis within the school. And obviously it just needs the work up front to set that out and to be clear about, and the training and support for them to be able to do that appropriately given the level of skills. And they can't actually do that to the level of a teacher, or some could, but you know, as a general rule. So it's just working out, you know, that again, that's supplementary roles.
It's down to being very quick. Again, it's that feedback from the student, and maybe having a school-wide policy on the general approach of which is, we were talking about in the individual issues that because TAs aren't in the same class all the time, but if it's a whole school ethos,
So what we'll come back to very at the end, but in the document again, we've done a TA policy template. We've done a kind of, you know, like a fill in the gaps kind of thing that you can use and adapt whatever way to start fleshing, and it breaks it down around deployment and interactions and interventions and, you know, contracts and stuff like that. So I think that helps, doesn't it? And just one final thing to say on this is that this school that does this has found that the more and more they've kind of got on the same page in an understanding, the less and less time they've needed to liaison before and after lessons. So you'll see a video later where they use post-it notes to brief after lessons, and they found, because they know exactly what information they were trying to get in the first place, that for a lot of the cases can do the job. But you can only do that if you know exactly what you're trying to get out of that. And the more you do this, I think, up front, I think the better it can help. Right, well, we've covered it on the range. Got
Okay. So the third recommendation that we went through last time was all about the interactions that happen between TAs and pupils. So we're just kind of setting aside the kind of class of organisation with that Jonathan's just run through, and just focusing on the nature and the quality of the talk that happens between TAs and pupils. And you'll remember that I ran through some of the research evidence on that found that TAs will tend towards completing tasks for children and correcting tasks for children. So at the very worst, they're kind of spoon feeding answers. So it has the effect of kind of growing a dependence on that adult support, and that can happen over time. Particularly for the kids who get the most amount of support from TAs, who tend to be the ones with statements and plans. And that has the effect of sort of eroding the opportunities for people to sort of experience independence and working by themselves and working for themselves, and actually having the space to tackle a problem and make mistakes and recover from them and so on. So it was kind of, the evidence tends to suggest to us that TAs give children the most amount of help when they talk to them. So our sort of starting point for this was to turn that on its head. So TAs should be giving kids the least amount of help first. And actually we see quite a particular value in TAs being able to work with kids in such a way to help them develop their independent learning skills and self-regulation. And so, and that's a really good example, we think, of TAs supplementing what teachers are doing, because there they are working with one-to-one groups of children where they can be sort of providing a service, if you like, alongside the learning, alongside the curriculum, alongside the instruction, which is all about helping children to build those skills of independence and confidence. I mean, that's one of the slides I showed from last time, which just reminds us of some of the things we want to see less of, the things like the spoon feeding and the over prompting, task completion, stereo teaching as well. So remember I kind of said last time that the TA will sort of be talking to the child. Well, perhaps it just doesn't need. You don't really need to do that. The teacher who's doing the talking, the child needs to listen to them. It's perfectly okay for the TA not to be doing any talking at that point. As Jonathan kind of hinted at earlier as well, not allowing pupils enough thinking and response time. So when the TA, in the video, earlier was at the front of the classroom, wasn't at the desk, so the children weren't kind of looking to her for answers or input. Because you know what happens, you put an adult, if it's a teacher or a TA, at the table with a group of children, and if they experience any kind of difficulty at all, they just look immediately to the adult. They won't look to any of the other children on the table, they look to the adult. And actually they'll do that even when they don't need to, because they just want some kind of reassurance about what they're doing. Do I need to do this now? They know that they need to do that. If there wasn't an adult there, they'd know that. There's a lot of kind of reassurance, which is fine, but we can work on children sort of needing less of that. So the more helpful things, allowing that time, that space for children to retain responsibility for their learning and so on, is underpinned by this idea of giving children the least amount of help first. So the TA's asking themselves in their brain, what's the least help this child needs from me now? So it's really, really fine-grained, isn't it? It's the moment-by-moment interactions in TA's kind of getting into the habit of asking themselves this question and responding in line with it, so they're not falling into the trap of giving the answer or giving too much of a hint. And last time I was here, I waved around a book that we've written for, which is the audience is TAs. It's quite possible to do some training around that book, the contents of the book, and then one of the kind of the book sets out this scaffolding framework and how TAs can use it in their practice and how schools can support TAs to use that in their practice. So I think we gave this to you on a sheet of paper last time, but just to sort of remind you what it is again. The default setting really in the classroom should be that the children are developing the skills of self-scaffolding, and that is happening as a result of having interactions with TAs. But actually you need that kind of space for children to be able to practice that. So what does that look like in the classroom? Well, the group are working and the TA may be sat at the table, but she's not interacting with the children. She's just observing seeing what's going on, making decisions about, you know, if and when she needs to interact. But really, it's the child that needs to sort of be the trigger for the trigger for the interaction. One needs to ask, you know, do something to introduce the TA into the interaction, rather than just the TA sort of leaping in and, you know, cutting across the learning. So when the TA does make an intervention, the first one should be what we call a prompt. So this is broadly something that will remind the child of a strategy that they can use to get to where they need to get to. So it's fair. That's very consistent with the sort of metacognition, learning to learn, knowing what to do when you don't know what to do kind of things. And then if that's not working, we need to go a bit further. We might need to offer a clue which might actually take us to the task itself. So prompts are fairly sort of broad. You could use those across all kinds of tasks, all kinds of curriculum areas, because they, you know, they carry across. If you're stuck on something in geography, you know, there's a certain set of techniques you can use, but would also apply in any other subject. It's not subject specific. But clues might be a little bit more related to the task. It might be we need to look at the worksheet in front of us, and the TA needs to work out, well, what bit of information can I give, or what question can I ask that will nudge that child a little bit more towards the answer, but without being such a big clue that it gives them the answer. So that's a skill that needs to be developed, and you won't get it right every single time. And then there is modelling, which is more, that's more about the arrangement, really, of how we use modelling. It's not doing it for the child, it's showing the child what to do, then getting them immediately to repeat that back, so that you, the adult, you can see that that child is starting to learn, practice, embed those skills. So always kind of steering away from correcting. We kind of want to use that as little as possible. And as the arrows either side of the triangle indicate, you know, the more you're operating at the bottom of that, the more heavy lifting the TA is doing. And if the TA is working harder than the child, got a problem. Okay? Child has got to be doing the heavy lifting. They are experiencing independence. They are experiencing all of those things. You know, struggling with a task, because, you know, that's all right. If you're not struggling, you're not learning. Okay, you have to create the space for that. You have to. We, as a school, we need to make sure that TAs are, you know, understand that, and we give them the freedom and the license to allow that to happen. If they see a child struggling, that is okay. You know, there's a point at which that doesn't become okay, but actually we need to kind of allow that to happen, and we need to be comfortable with that as well. We don't need to sort of cut it across. Remember the snow plough from last time? Oh look, they're starting to panic. Let's leap in straight away with a massive clue so they can, you know, get the answer and experience success. You know, be careful with that. We showed this last time as well. This is just kind of tie it to perhaps a, you know, wider, based on wider kind of agenda. We know that providing quality feedback on learning and the development of metacognitive skills are the things on the teaching and learning toolkit that give us the greatest bang for our buck. But we've not really yet thought through TA's role, contribution to that. So this is essentially the kind of space in which we're looking now with the scaffolding framework. So I've got a couple of videos just to try and exemplify some of these points. These don't map on perfectly, because you do videoing in classrooms and essentially you just get what you get. You can't set these things up. But I've been through a bit of footage and I've tried to sort of look for just a couple of examples of where I think that kind of it maps roughly onto that scaffolding framework. So the first thing to say is I'm going to show you two videos of a teacher, well, it's more of a TA actually, his name is Rob, at a school in Sheffield. In fact, it's Mo's school. So, I'm being honest with you here. You know, Mo's perfectly happy for me to share these videos with you. These are actually done as part of the TES online course, which we'll say a bit more about later. So I don't actually think this footage is in any of the online courses, but I had access to the whole lesson video, and I just had fun trying to look for some useful things. So just to kind of set up here, I think, Mo will correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is a Year 5 class, I might be wrong about that. Sorry, it is, right, okay, brilliant, thanks. So Year 5 class, so you will hear the teacher, her voice will be a little bit faint because her microphone's turned down, so it's just coming through the one that TA's wearing. You'll hear Rob's voice a lot clearer. There are 2 cameras in the room, which is why you'll kind of see, you might see sort of 2 images there. The lesson that was going, it was a literacy lesson, and it was about planning a story, and the subject of the story was life in a Brazilian slum. So that just kind of gives you a sense of what they're talking about. And so I'll just play it, and then we'll, as Jonathan did, you can just kind of tell me what you saw.
And Rob, I will say very thick-skinned, so please be quite critical. Analyse it critically. You don't have to.
Right. Okay. I didn't say that. Okay. Oh dear. Oh, jumped the gun. Hang on. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so today we're going to plan our stories. Now, first of all, with your partner, what do you think our story is going to be about? Use the picture on your paper to help you. What do you think our story is going to be about? Just 10% decide.
Don't tell me, tell your partners.
Hold on a second. We have only got 10 seconds, so we're going to stop now. The next time, we just need to structure that talk a bit better, because you were just talking to no one. So we're going to work on that next time.
Could you hear that all right? Is that okay? Yeah. So, what did you see? What interested you about that?
He didn't really engage with the children. He was just listening and watching what they were doing.
Okay.
And even when a child tried to talk to him, he said, "Tell your partner."
Exactly. Right from the moment the teacher said, "Talk to your partner about planning your story," he cut off the opportunity for them to talk to him. He wanted them to talk to each other. Don't tell me to tell your partner. Anything else?
Linking it back to the triangle, he was definitely looking at the confidence level in terms of next time we need to be talking, we need to allow that person to speak, so it's that learning.
Yeah, there was something about, I think it must be the girl who's on his left there, who seemingly was talking, but not to anyone in particular. So he kind of noticed that. But yeah, he allowed all of that to happen before he kind of reined it in. I mean, as things turned out, the lesson was going to move on, so he kind of sort of dealt with that. He obviously heard something in what was said about it being unstructured. It's because we can't hear the children's voices, I don't really know what it was, other than perhaps, you know, they just started talking randomly to whoever would listen. But anything else from that you found useful, interesting?
Even though he wasn't engaging with them, you've got the children get the sense he was engaging and that he was interested in. And he wasn't totally detached. He didn't engage with the verbally. You could see he was engaged and listening, so he was listening to them. So they all feel valid that he was listening, if not.
Yeah, absolutely. He's there, isn't he? He doesn't need to be talking to be engaged, otherwise the children would never get a chance to do anything.
But he was still.
But he's there.
Yes.
He's listening.
Yeah, support her.
And trying to keep it focused on the
You
task.
said we'll do that another time.
Yeah, yes.
So rather than going off on a tangent,
Yeah.
talking about something that wasn't relevant, kept
Brilliant.
back to what was needed.
Hold that in mind as you watch the next one. So there is a bit of a kind of overlap in between you know, what you might consider to be a clue and what you might consider to be a prompt. These aren't sort of absolute things. They're just a way of kind of thinking about it. So some of the things that Rob says here you might consider to be prompts, others are a bit more focused on the tasks you might consider them to be clues. But there's actually something kind of something else that was connected to what this lady said, which is really interesting about this video. So I'll just sort of shut up a bit and play this through.
So, you've only got 2 minutes to do it because of the main part.
Okay guys, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to work under the table. We'll see you in a minute. It's alright, just think about who you are. We have the prompting questions. Who we are. Oh, there you go. You never have a pencil in there. Good job, I got one spare. Okay, go for it. Let's go for it, Suraj. You got a name? So we're thinking about, you know, this is a person whose your story is going to be about. So you're thinking about what's her name, what's your name, what do you like to do. Think about family as well, it's really important. Who would you live with in your shack? Yeah, make up a character. That's not enough. I'm going to give you 3 minutes on your own, yeah?
What's pronouncing your first name?
No idea. Let's just make it up.
Cristiano. Yeah.
I don't know about, I'm not a massive Brazilian name person, but I think maybe we can go for, oh, this is just, no. Carlos, Sergio, I don't know, they're 2 names. But this is not the key, remember when we write it, we're in first person, so it was, hello. You can borrow it, but we have to have it back with no writing. Cassius will work. Listen, the main part of the learning is about the story plan later. The name's not too important. It's about what you do with your time in the favela, what you like, okay? I'm going to leave you because I know you're looking at me waiting for me to give you some answers, alright? So I'll come back in 2 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Cheers. Good, write it down. What do you like to do? You?
Oh, sorry. That was pretty much the end of the video, so I'm just trying to stop it. Okay, any thoughts, observations, comments, criticisms of what happened there? There's a lot goes on, doesn't it? In 2 minutes, a hell of a lot goes on.
It was really clear it's not about the task, it's not about the child's name. What actually we're trying to learn is how to plan a story. So he's just taken away from that bit. He clearly knows the children really well, because he turns to that girl on his left and said, don't panic. So he knew that she was going to panic, and he also set a boundary for how long he was going to be away for, so that they knew when that support mechanism was going to come back.
Would anyone like to add to that?
Just again, the clearness of the clarity of his message, sorry, I'm going to leave you because you're waiting for me to give the answers. It's just that really explicit conversation with them.
That's right. There was, just to come back to this lady's point down here, he kept the main thing the main thing. He did get dragged into a conversation about names, and I don't know how well you can hear it, but I've watched the video loads of times now. But the 2 lads kind of down the front, you can't quite see because they're obscured by the other bit of the other camera, are debating names of footballers. They are talking about, and he asks Rob, what's Ronaldo's first name? Because they know that these are kind of Spanish, Portuguese sounding names, and they're trying to get, and Rob gets dragged into a bit of a conversation about that, but he pulls himself out of it and says, no, it's not really about the name, is it? It's about what we do. So he comes back to the task, gives them some sharp points about what they need to do. He says, give them 3 minutes to do it. Then he goes. He goes, I'll be back in 3 minutes. If you watch the rest of that video, he comes back in 3 minutes, more or less. So, any other kind of observations about that? We've probably covered them all, haven't we, between us? You're kind of...
No, I'm just trying to do.
Oh, okay, alright, I thought you were kind of...
monitoring at the end, waiting.
Just itching to get on the stage and leave us in a hoedown. Oh dear. Right, I think that's great. Is that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Paul
you.
Ron's done a lesson observation with 100 people.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. But he comes across a bit of a force of nature, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Brilliant. And I think you made a comment about knowing the kids really well. I've got another video actually. It's really interesting. There's something about it that's when you kind of see it for the 3rd or 4th time, you really realise that there must be some good principles of working together as a group embedded, because the children respond So that's perhaps some more evidence of that. Okay, we'll just move it on to talking a bit about preparation, and then we will pause for a short break, and then we'll hand over to Mike. So, the fourth recommendation that we brought up last time was around preparation. So everything that might attend to training TAs, training teachers to work with TAs, and the setting up for the day, setting up for lessons, and providing feedback afterwards. There's quite a lot in here, and it is perhaps the area that begins to raise particular challenges, because you can very often get into conversations about TAs' working hours. If we're thinking about time for teachers and TAs to meet, and we need to know when they're in school, and that might lead to kind of thoughts about, do they need to be in earlier, do we need to be in different times, can we create more time, how do we use what we've got better, and so on. But as Jonathan said earlier, this kind of guidance report, you can sum it up in one sentence. It is about supplementing, not replacing the teacher. And this principle is all about how you do that. You know, it's not necessarily an expression of it, it's just what you need to do in order to make that happen. So I had a slide from last time, which was a comment from the TA, which talked all about going into lessons blind. So this, that is essentially one of the problems here that we are trying to mitigate. In terms of the TA's working hours, what we have seen is schools tackle this in very different ways. I've been surprised, pleasantly so actually, with the number of schools who've kind of worked through this process, and they have realised that in order to make better use of TAs, in order to kind of cash in, capitalise on this, all these other things, they have to have time for teachers and TAs to meet. And there is no other way of doing it than they will extend the school day. They will extend the TA's hours by half an hour a week or something. And they will set up a meeting at, it might be sort of 10 minutes on Tuesday and Thursday. It might be half an hour on a Wednesday afternoon. So they are building that time in because it's so important to capitalise on everything else. Otherwise, everything else, is perhaps just a little bit shaky. Because you're not kind of providing this essential time for planning and feedback and so on. Other schools have, I understand the pressures that you're under, so they have shifted the TA's working hours. So it might be, and they've standardised the hours as well at the same time. So they've dealt with two problems. TA's on a whole kind of a mismatch of contracts, where some are coming at 8:30, some are coming at 20 to 9, 10 to 9, 10 past 9, leaving at different times, and they've worked through over the year with consultations with the governors and so on, that in September the following year they are going, they have two types of contract types. There's a 8:30 to 3 o'clock, or there's a 9 o'clock to 3:30. Simple. You're on one of those. So you're either meeting at half an hour before school or half an hour after school. Another thing that's kind of emerged from that is it's not just getting the time. That's the hardest bit, is actually finding that time and getting that time. It's also making sure it's used in the right ways. So you set some expectations, clear expectations about what should be happening in that time, so there's no drift. Maria yesterday, who's the school leader from Barnet, who came to talk to schools, said that there was, when they sort of did this in their school, there was drift. There was some of the teachers started using that time to send TAs off to do displays and do photocopy, all of which is kind of useful stuff for the teachers, I understand that. But actually that time is for talking about learning. It's time for talking about lessons. So, make it sacrosanct. And monitor as well. So make sure, there's a school that I've worked with down in Fareham, who, one of the first schools I saw try this idea, and one of the senior leadership team just did a quick walk around the school at about 20 to 9, each one, just to check that TAs were in the class with the teachers, doing planning, doing feedback. TAs weren't at the photocopier, or they weren't being sent to do things that weren't at that time wasn't to be useful. So expectations and monitoring are important part of that. We'll have another look at these videos. So we've already kind of seen the first half of this video. Thinking about the sort of deployments, we will just play it again because it's not very long, but you can kind of just look at it again with a view to the sort of the lesson planning. And there's one after it as well, which is kind of another way of expressing planning before lessons. And I think that the key thing about these is don't get too hung up on the fact that this is a staged video and the teacher and the TA are obviously sat at a table and it looks like they've been in a meeting for 20 minutes. It is the quality of what is shared rather than how long you spend doing it. So just kind of hold that in mind as you watch it.
I draw up this kind of a basic place to start off with, we can be adding to this as we go. Here are the students that we're particularly looking at. So there's Dion, Danielson, Dara, Rohan and Richie. Acting maybe as a talk partner for Dara. I'll be working with them as well, so we can do a kind of a swapping there so that we both get an opportunity to work with him in that kind of pair work situation, and then you can be kind of walking around. I'd like to see you focusing on other students as well, maybe not even just these students.
Sorry, did you want me to like walk around with the students? So with Dion, like you said, trying to encourage effort, so just making sure it's easy to visualise that. Still keep your eye to make sure he's refocused, but not sitting next to him or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And you said it was Mark, he's not on here, but he sometimes needs refocusing.
Yeah, Mark, yeah, definitely. Actually, one thing in particular I'd like to have a look at is literacy. It'd be a huge help if you could even just carry around a pink highlighter and just maybe do some there and then in class, literacy marking, and making sure that they are keeping up with that and that their literacy skills are something that we're actually working on in class.
Right, by the end of the lesson, they need to make sure they've got the evaluation question done and using the keywords, make sure they've used a number of the keywords, and if you underline the keywords, you'll perfectly replace it.
Okay. You saw the first half of that video already, but anything that kind of emerges for you in terms of the lesson planning bit, the exchange of information between the two?
I know one of the big complaints that we have with students is that they don't get a chance to access their emails.
Okay.
So again, that's a time thing, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, Maria was saying yesterday that they made no assumptions about that, and they even found that the TAs some of them didn't know how to access email. They didn't know how to send one, to open one,
And some don't have IT access at home either. So.
That's right. So for some that might work, for some it might not. So there's an alternative mechanism might be required. Let's have a look at the next video. So this is the kind of the other side of it really, the feeding back information. So again, this video is also from the staff at St James in Barnet. Oh, sorry.
sort of looked around today and just wrote them down perfectly. Wonderful, thank you very much, Rosie.
Right.
Thank you for your help. And I'll send you the scheme of work. Yeah, that'd be really good. Probably by the end of the day.
Okay.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Rose. Thank you. I'll see you later. Bye.
It's been a few weeks now. How do you think Woody's been doing in lessons?
So far, I think he's been making some good progress.
Okay. Is there anything in particular?
I found out in the last week that he was struggling with the keywords, but after he went back and refreshed his memory and looked through the examples, he was able to attempt the questions.
Brilliant. So maybe from here we can work on him using his keywords, but in long answers, especially the 6-mark questions in his exams.
Okay, any thoughts on what you saw there in terms of the feedback? So the information going back to the teacher from the TA at the end of the lesson.
Just quick. I mean, she kind of said it verbally to the teacher as well. But just the fact that she's got the post-it notes you refer back to.
Yeah, you've got both then, haven't you? You won't forget it because it's busy. You've got a note as well. So I mean, one of the sort of key things about this is this works really well in conjunction with that teacher-TA agreement. You know, you get your kind of the basics down, you get to 80% of it down, and then the rest is just tweaking. It's nuance. It's this lesson requires this. This is the feedback I require. If you're clear at the start about what feedback you want from the TAs, then that's what they focus on providing you with. They won't sort of give you just sort of inanery or just, you know, they struggled with that, or they thought that was good, they liked that. You know, you want something that you can feed into your planning. Okay, I'm going to stop there because we've still got quite a bit to do, and there's quite a lot of you to process for the coffee. So I'm going to be really strict about this. We want to come back in 10 minutes and start in 10 minutes. So if you can kind of grab yourself a drink and do what you need to in 10 minutes, and we'll call you to order in exactly 10 minutes' time.